You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB. Football Fever with News Talk ZB's voice of football, Jason Pine and Bonnie Jansen.
Well, what a pleasure it is to be here for a fresh edition of Football Fever, the podcast for all things New Zealand football, the national teams, Kiwis overseas, and the Wellington Phoenix men and women. And what a pleasure it is to be here this morning with Wellington Phoenix's men's side having secured a top two spot for the first time in their history, more points than they have ever achieved before, and we can start looking forward to a home and away semi-final in the not-too-distant future. I'm Jason Pine. Bonnie Jansen's here too. I spoke for quite a long time there without bringing you in. My apologies for that.
No, don't be sorry. I'm just so happy for the side. What a game that was on Friday. I was hoping you'd have a cut of your commentary in there because that call on Finn Sermon's goal was just awesome. So credit to you, Piney, and just so happy that the team have finished top two. We've done it, I guess, almost.
Absolutely. What I actually have loved about Friday night's game, or the time since, is the number of those little clips that have come out from In the Yellow Fever. There was a great clip that I saw, and it must be club produced, of the bench. Have you seen this? When the players on the bench watching Finn Sermon score that goal, and there's just the second of delight, and then they're just off, sprinting towards the throng of players to celebrate. There's some amazing stuff up in Yellow Fever, and I've talked to a couple of guys who go every week, and one of them said to me last night, I have never been engulfed as much as I was on Friday night when that goal went in. What a moment, eh?
Oh, it was so exciting. She does their visuals for the Wellington Phoenix.
Yes.
So I know that she took that, and she's so good at her job, and she captured a brilliant moment. And what are the chances that she filmed that, kind of hoping that it would go in? But no, I was actually out at the pub watching with a group of sports journalists up here in Auckland, and just when that goal went in, we just were jumping up, celebrating. It was hilarious. It was what a moment. Yeah,
I think up and down the country, people watching on television and those at the ground. I mean, only 6,000 there. And Bonnie, it was a terrible night. It was so grim. During the day, here's me, ever the optimist, I was looking at the weather forecast, and it sort of, at times, and it changed a bit, it said, hey, the rain's going to sort of ease off at around about 7 o'clock. I thought, that'd be quite good. That's about kick-off time. The ground will be nice and slick, but it won't be raining. Well, it absolutely teamed down the whole game.
No.
And, but it almost just added to the drama happening in this absolute rainstorm. Let's try and unpick some of it. Let's start with the goal, actually, at the end. What about the delivery from Oscar van Hattem? That is some ball, isn't it?
Yeah, I rate that player so much. He's one of those academy players that have just grown each game, and he's making the most of his opportunities, and what an opportunity that was. And great delivery. The funny thing, well, not the funny thing, but you get a free kick right at the end, and you think, okay, who's going to deliver this? Who's still on the pitch? Who is most likely to send this one in? And you don't automatically gravitate to Oscar van Hattem. In fact, I think you gravitate to a whole bunch of players before you get to him, because he's never really been known for his set-piece ability, probably because he hasn't had the opportunity. He's the guy who comes off the bench and adds impact in other ways. He's a bit quick. He's energetic. He's more likely to assist a goal in open play. I thought, and I remember at the time thinking, oh, that's interesting that he's taking it. But what a delivery. Not to labour the point, but it's a perfect ball in. Yeah, were you slightly worried? I guess. Piney, he was saying that?
No. I mean, I didn't mean to put it that way. I just thought there were more obvious contenders for set piece. And he won the free kick, and so that's the first part of it. He was the one who was fouled for the free kick, so he's obviously contributed in that way. I had something sent to me earlier today saying he's now provided an assist against the Mariners from 1-0 down, an assist against Sydney at 1-0 down. He won the penalty against Victory that got. That when they were 1-0 down, that brought it back to 1-1, and obviously has a goal against Adelaide, and now this. If you want impact, he's your man, isn't he?
Oh, exactly, and that's what I mean. This season, the Phoenix players have stepped up in big moments, and for a young player to come through and do that, it's just incredible. And it's why this team have done so well this year. You've got the likes of Alex Poulsen saving penalties when we need. We've got Finn Sermon, an absolute rock at the back, or putting a goal away in the 96th minute, or, as we say, Oscar delivering a ball like that. It's truly incredible.
And Ben Old, of course, another Academy product.
Another one.
Yeah, and you forget, don't you, that because he has just been such a standout. The other part about Oscar Van Hattem coming on was he came on for Božidar Krajev, who I actually thought was the best player on the pitch, not just in the Phoenix side, but the best player out there by some margin in his 50th game. And Paul Eiffel and Jacob Spoonley, who do the Sky post-match, said exactly the same thing in the post-game show. When the number 11 came up and it was Božidar Krajev coming off, they kind of scratched their heads and said, he's been the best player there. I wonder why you're taking him off. But you got to just trust in Giancarlo Italiano now, because every decision he makes just seems to bear fruit for this team.
Exactly. Chiefy's had some season himself, hasn't he? And it just shows the depth of this squad and the trust he's got in these players. And I like to think that he's trying to keep his opposition guessing, and I guess us, the fans, as well. Like Piney and I, we've discussed that we don't know what their strongest lineup is. He seems to change it every week. So, yeah, here's just another example of what he likes to do as coach.
Yeah, and speaking of lineups, let's have a look at that, because he made 3 changes. Obviously, Rufer was always going to come back. That, he's the captain. He missed the game against the Mariners through suspension. He was always going to come back. Tim Payne came back into the side. And Mohamed El Tay was the other one. It's almost been he and Nicholas Pennington have almost complemented one another throughout the season alongside Rufer. Not often have they played together, and that proved to be the case again. But I've sort of done a bit of reading on what other people think, and just the way that Wellington was so combative for the whole game and really didn't take a backward step to a really good team. I mean, Victory are a good team, Bonnie. Look at their players. Yeah. They're and they'll still have, I'm sure, a part to play in finals football. They'll be there, and they may well face Wellington again at some stage in a semi or even a grand final. But Wellington just didn't take a backward step against a team that is far, far more highly regarded man for man than they are.
No, that's what I mean. And I way preferred that back 4 instead of a back 3 that they played the week earlier. They've still got options coming off the bench with a lineup like this as well. I would potentially consider starting David Ball over Ben Old. I don't know if that's controversial. We know how good Ben Old is, but I think Ben Old is a better player to bring off the bench. Again, Chiefy has that option. So, I don't know what you think, but that's potentially my only change I'd make. I
think what you said is true. I think it's the options. I'd probably stick with Oldie. I think he has probably now shown himself to be a guy who can provide impact across an entire game. Although I thought, actually, on Friday night, it was one of his quieter games. I think he provided perhaps less than he has in previous matches. Yeah, I think I'd still go with him. And really, you're not going to be changing too much from a team that's been doing so well for you. I kind of feel as though what we saw on Friday is an 11 we might now see. I really like Sam Sutton, the left back. Lucas Kelly-Hield's been good, but I like Sutton there. Sermon and Wootton, Paulson, Payne, obviously. Rufer definitely plays. The front guys that we've talked about. But what happens when Oscar Zavada is fit? Imagine having him coming off the bench.
I kind of forgot he was around. Is he meant to be coming back?
Well, it's always a little bit of a half and half answer when it gets asked to Chiefy every week at media conferences. How's Oscar? And he's always very non-committal, saying he might be back for this, he might be back for finals. You must remember there are 2 regular season games to go. Then the Phoenix will have a week off, and then it's the home and away semi-finals and hopefully the grand final. So, there's still 6 or 7 weeks of the season to go. So that does give him time to come back. The goal, Finn Sermon. Initially, we were told in the commentary that it was an own goal. I called it as a Sermon goal because that's what it looked like, and it has since been corrected to that, thankfully, because I think he deserves the goal. It's only the 3rd headed goal for the Phoenix this season in 38 goals. Only 3 headers.
Wow.
That's low, right? That's really low.
Yeah, it is. But Finn Sermon, I mean, he's a big boy, and he's been using it up the other end. So good to be getting use of it up that end. Then the end we need potentially more.
Absolutely, yeah. So he was the goal scorer. I've made this point a couple of times, but this time last year, at the back end of last season, as Wellington were battling to try and get into the 6, he wasn't even included in match day squads. He couldn't even get in the 17. Let alone anywhere near the starting 11. He started 1 game last season And at the back end of last season, he didn't play at all. And in the off-season, they said, look, we've got to get an import centre-back in. Well, we're losing Josh Laws. We need to get an import centre-back in. But here's Finn Surman. He's played every minute of the season, all 25 matches from start to finish. And, as you've said, has been terrific at the back. And now he's a goal scorer as well. Probably one of the club's biggest moments in their history. It's just so funny how things can change in a year.
Oh, 100%. For me, he's probably one of my players of the season, up against maybe someone like Alex Poulsen. And the fact that we're talking about two of the youngest players in the squad is pretty crazy. But yeah, I just rate Finn Surman so much, and he's proved that with an opportunity, he can take it and he can grow each week, and he's going to be so good for New Zealand in the coming years, I think. Yeah,
and just a word on Alex Rufer, it feels like this is really his group of players now. He just leads this side, and he's so much a do as I do rather than a do as I say. Great moment afterwards. Finn Surman said when he scored the goal, he didn't really know what to do, because well, first of all, there's just this explosion of ecstasy. And second of all, he's never really scored a goal. He hasn't scored a goal before. So what do? And he said he was tackled by Nicholas Pennington as he was trying to get up. And he said Pennington, he thought, was trying to pick him up, but ended up pushing him down. Then they got up, and then Rufer came over and grabbed him, and Surman, Rufer and Old were running towards the corner flag, towards where the yellow fever were, and Alex Rufer goes, right, knee slide in 3, 2, 1, and they all did the triple knee slide. I just think that's magnificent leadership from Alex Rufer.
Yeah, I guess so. Or cringe, as you may. Some others may put it. But I don't know about you, Piney, but with, all the added technology and VAR in football now, when a goal is scored in such an important goal like that, I just have this immediate fear that rushes over me going, but we can't count it just yet. We need to wait to see if VAR is going to contend this, or, I don't know. That's what was going through my head when it happened. But I don't know if it's the same for you or the same for fans. But that was my thought. I was like, please be a proper goal.
It's such a good point though, and it's what VAR has robbed us of, and
exactly.
Is absolute a surety that we can celebrate.
Yeah.
Without a little doubt in the back of our mind. And Jacob even said in commentary, there might be a hint of offside. And I was like, I didn't see anything like that, and there wasn't, thankfully. But yeah, so at the end of it all, the goal stood. Finn Surman is the match winner. It took the Phoenix to 49 points on the table, a guaranteed top 2 spot. The following evening, Central Coast were fairly functional in their win, so they went back to the top. So let's now look at what this means in terms of the run-in. So Wellington Phoenix and Central Coast are going to be the top 2 sides in whichever order. One's going to be top and one's going to be second. The Central Coast play Adelaide on Saturday, and then that's at Gosford, and then travel away to the Newcastle Jets the following weekend. For the Phoenix, they play Newcastle this coming Friday night away, and then host MacArthur the following Saturday. Now, by a quirk of the draw, and I don't even know how this has worked out, the 2 games on the final weekends, Phoenix MacArthur and Mariners Jets, are simultaneous kickoffs. They kick off at the same time, which is almost unheard of in the A-League. You normally have all the games kicking off at different times so they can all get on TV. So these 2 games are going to be being played at the same time, with each set of fans trying to keep an ear on what's happening at the other game to see whether they're going to finish first or second.
Yeah, that's insane. And do you want to hear the worst part of it, Piney? I'm actually going to be on a flight back from LA, so I'm going to miss it.
What?
I know. I'm kind of fuming about it, and I'm just hoping Air New Zealand might be playing the game on the screens. I doubt it, but
no, they might. They might, because they do show live sport on one of their channels on international flights now. So you might see it. I mean, at the very least, there'll be Wi-Fi on the flight, won't there?
Surely, yeah. So I'll be one of those that stream it when you're not meant to.
Oh no, I was just going to say you can keep up to it on text commentary or something like that.
Okay,
I wasn't suggesting you break aviation rules or anything like that. But I mean, but needs must. But no, I know there was what was that? Oh, it was the Women's World Cup. Remember,
the Matildas.
Yeah, there's that famous thing of the Matildas.
The shootout.
Yeah, everybody watching it apart from one guy watching Lord of the Rings.
Oh, what a loser!
Yeah, so I think you might have a chance. If you're in the air, there is a live sport channel on Air New Zealand flights, so who knows? Now, I got a message from you this morning, and it said we're going to finish second, aren't we? Do you not think the Phoenix can finish top?
I just think that it's out of our hands, and Central Coast look good again on the weekend, and they have 2 easier games. Maybe had the Phoenix scored a couple more goals against Melbourne Victory, we could have closed that gap with the goal difference. I think it's, looking at it now, it's 5 goals. I am a little bit worried. I know MacArthur have been good this season. I guess we'll see. You made the point of Central Coast playing overseas, right?
Yeah, exactly. And remembering also the first point of separating 2 teams who are on equal points is the number of wins. So that actually does play into the Mariners' favour in that they've got 15 wins. The Phoenix have 14. Goal difference is the second separator. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, it's actually the number of wins. So that's why the Mariners are ahead at the moment. They do have a bit of goal difference, you're right, but it's more likely to come down to the number of wins. So to answer your question, yes, the Mariners are currently in Kazakhstan to play in the Asian Cup, and it takes 30 hours to get there and 30 hours back, so that can't be particularly conducive to fresh legs when they get back to play Adelaide on Saturday. The other thing about Adelaide is Adelaide play Western United tomorrow night in a catch-up game. If they win that game, they're still in contention for the top 6, so they'll have everything to play for when they go to Gosford on Saturday night. And then the final game, Newcastle Jets, well, they're not going to make the 6, but they are the Mariners' fiercest rivals. They would like nothing more than on the final day of the season to deny the Mariners the Premier's plate. So I think there's a few little things at play here.
Okay, so we can be a little bit optimistic.
I think so. I think they're probably not favourite, right? Because they need the Mariners to slip up. All the Phoenix can do is beat the Jets on Friday night and beat MacArthur the following week and hope that the Mariners don't win their last 2 games. If the Mariners win their last 2 games, they are Premier's plate winners. But if they slip up somewhere and the Phoenix can take advantage, then there is an opportunity. Regardless of all of this, they are the top 2. They won't have to play the first week of the finals. The teams that finish 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th will battle it out. And then the 2 winners of those elimination finals will be fed into home and away games against the Mariners and the Phoenix. Now, I've had a lot of people ask when the home game is likely to be in that semi-final series. They cannot. Well, I don't think they'd want to, but they want to play that. They want to play the home game second, because if it goes to if it's level after 180 minutes, it goes to extra time and penalties, and you'd want to be at home for that. The other part of it is Sky Stadium's not available the previous weekend anyway. There's home and living show or something on, so it'll have to be the weekend of May 17, 18, 19. My understanding is that it's almost certain that game will be on the night of Saturday, May the 18th. So that is, if you're looking for flights, for accommodation, to put a ring around a weekend in your calendar, that is it. Saturday, May 18 is almost certainly, the evening of, is almost certainly when that game's going to be played.
Unreal. Can't wait, Piney. You're surely going to be here for that. Yeah, 100%. I'm coming down. Yeah. Right. No, okay. There's no doubt about it. But I don't know what I would prefer more, whether I would rather the Phoenix win the Premier's plate, how amazing that would be off the back of their season, or, finish second, be a little bit humbled and go into the playoffs, slightly more hungrier with kind of nothing to lose in that respect. I mean, obviously we want the Premier's plate, but if they finish second, it's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah, the thing about finishing second is that it's far less likely you'll host the grand final, because of the team that finishes top, the Mariners. If the Mariners go through to the grand final and they finish top, they will host. So that's the other part of that. But
that's all right. Trip to Aussie for us, Piney.
Absolutely. Well, there is that too. Yeah, nothing wrong with it. It sounds like you're travelling internationally pretty much every week at the moment anyway. So It won't be you'll be clocking up the air miles. It all sort of there's still a lot to play out, as there is actually in spots in the top 6. Below the Phoenix and the Mariners, Melbourne Victory have 41 points, Sydney have 38, MacArthur have 38. Those 3 teams are all guaranteed in the 6 now. Western Sydney are on 34, Melbourne City are on 33. They play each other this coming weekend. Not necessarily a shootout for a place in the top 6, but whoever wins it will have a huge opportunity. Still in the running, Brisbane, although that seems unlikely. They've only got 2 games left and they're on 29 points. And Adelaide, as I mentioned, they've got that game in hand. They're on 28. So they could feasibly get to 37 points, which would put them in the picture anyway. But it's just such a strange feeling. At this time of the season, normally Wellington Phoenix fans are doing the maths to see whether the Phoenix can get into the 6. Doing the maths to see whether they'll finish first or second is just completely foreign to anybody who's ever followed this side.
Oh, it definitely is. Is it too soon, Piney, to talk about who we would rather play in that home and away playoff game? I mean, there's a few teams to deal with here.
It's probably a good question. Yeah, I'll tell you who I wouldn't want to play. Melbourne City. The way they demolished Perth last night, 8-0. Yeah. And when they've got their full, roster fit, functional and firing, they are a frightening proposition. So I think of all of the teams, and they beat the Phoenix last time they played them, that was in Melbourne, I kind of feel like Melbourne City are the ones you want to avoid. But then having said that, I go back to Melbourne Victory's roster on Friday night. Man for man, if you say, okay, I want to choose a combined team using the first 11 from Melbourne Victory and the first 11 from Phoenix, there are more Victory players in that team than Phoenix players.
Oh, come on, Piney.
No, there are. There literally are, because just look at the names, Yeah. Fornaroli, Arzani, Mishash, Brimmer. They've been terrific all season. De Silva at the back. I know the Phoenix have had stars as well, but if you're a neutral and you look at those two lineups, there are more Melbourne Victory players in that team than Phoenix players. The reason, the point I'm making is that it actually doesn't matter how good the roster of the other side is. Wellington have just found a way against everybody this season. Everybody.
Yeah. I mean, the Phoenix weren't the favourites on Saturday night against Melbourne Victory, or Friday night rather, on the TAB. So that says something. But I guess the team I wouldn't want to play is MacArthur. And the reason being is because there's a couple of Kiwis in that team, a couple of former Phoenix players in that team. I think they would be out to get the Phoenix. They would not want them to be doing well this season, and that's why I'm a little bit worried about that last game of the regular season, and that's why I'm kind of fearing maybe a second place finish is on the cards. Yeah,
and look, that's right too. It's when I said before, the Phoenix just have to win their 2 games. Even Newcastle away on Friday night will be tough. No professional team ever lies down. They just don't, and so Wellington will have to be top of their game to beat the Jets. I backed them to beat MacArthur back in Wellington. They've beaten them twice away this season. I think Wellington match up okay against MacArthur, but I get your point. And in a one-off game, as you say, Clayton Lewis, Tommy Smith, Philip Curto is there, obviously another former Phoenix player. Yeah, there's a bit of history there, a bit of niggle. So I just think there are some terrific storylines to be written before this is all done and dusted. So just to put a wrap on the Wellington Phoenix men, guaranteed top 2. Jets on Friday, MacArthur the following Saturday, and put a ring around Saturday, May 18 for the home leg of the semi-final. That is, as I say, almost 100% guaranteed to be the night of that home leg of the semi-final.
The FFP with Piney and Bonnie.
We've taken quite a bit of the podcast talking about the Phoenix, but we do have time to talk about some Kiwis playing overseas. Do you want to start with the female players? In fact, quite close to home, a couple of our football ferns are still going to be involved in finals football in the A-League Women's.
Yeah, absolutely. Rebecca Stotty, as we like to call her, and Hannah Wilkinson, our World Cup hero, they were Premier Plate winners for the A-League Women with Melbourne City. They were crowned that title over the weekend, and they will be playing Newcastle Jets in their home and away playoff. They're playing against Newcastle this Sunday coming up, and that'll be away first. The first leg is away. So congrats to them. Obviously huge. CJ Bott set up Leicester's goal this morning in the FA Cup semi-final against Tottenham. However, they did go down 2-1 in extra time. And Gabby Rennie, who was featured in the recent Football Ferns tour, played her first game for her new club, Åland United in Finland, and she started and played 58 minutes. So really good to see her getting some minutes after, at her first pro club.
Yeah, absolutely. Good on Gabby Rennie for hitting the ground running there. That's Jackie Hand's former club, of course. So we'll follow Gabby Rennie's progress there with interest. As far as the men are concerned, Tommy Smith, just want to mention him, I just did before, he got the winning goal actually for MacArthur against Adelaide in their 2-1 win, and what a goal. Gets up at the far post like a salmon and just technique personified with a powering header to give them a 2-1 win, so well done to Tommy Smith there. Further afield, Matt Garbutt got a goal for NAC Breda. It was the fastest goal of the league season, 42 seconds, but it wasn't enough to prevent a 4-1 defeat. Another goal for Andre de Jong in South Africa. America, the third in Stellenbosch's 4-0 win over Supersport. That has them through into the semi-finals of the South African Cup competition. Marko Stamanic had an assist for Crvena Zvezda in their game, which sent them into the Serbian Cup semi-finals, a 3-0 win. Chris Wood didn't get a goal on the weekend. His Nottingham Forest side drew 2-2 with Wolves, 1 point clear of relegation and 5 games to go. And Ben Waine came off the bench for Plymouth. They beat Leicester City, who were top of the championship, 1-0. And in fact, it's knocked Leicester City off the top. Ipswich have gone past them. Ben Waine coming off the bench and playing a part in that particular game. I think that is us for today and Football Fever. So all roads lead to the Hunter Valley and to McDonald Jones Stadium for Wellington Phoenix on Friday night. Bonnie, a prediction before we go. What are you expecting from the Phoenix men on Friday night against Newcastle?
I think we're going to win 1-0. Just the one.
Yeah, well, it's been a pretty common scoreline this year, hasn't it? Phoenix have found a way to win matches, and 1-0 hasn't been uncommon. You're not expecting them to launch pad off this off the emotion of the victory game and go over there and put 3 or 4 away. Just the one.
I mean, I would obviously like that, Piney, but with this competition's been so competitive all season long, so I'm not counting on it. I think, the Phoenix get the job done, and they might just do that with a nice little 1-0 win. We'll take it.
All right, that's Friday night.
What do you reckon?
I think they'll win the game. You're right. I mean, the Phoenix haven't really put anybody to the sword this year. They haven't sort of put 3 or 4 past anybody. I wonder whether this might be the time they do. Newcastle a bit down on their luck at the moment, although they've had a couple of good wins lately, which has lifted them up to 10th on the table. When I say down on their luck, they're still looking for a new owner. The future of the club is not yet guaranteed. But having said that, they've presented themselves with a decent amount of commitment last couple of games. So it won't be easy at all. But I'd like to think the Wellington Phoenix would have enough to win that game and keep themselves alive in the hunt for the Premier's plate into the final weekend. That's, of course, if the Central Coast Mariners managed to beat Adelaide the following evening. That is Football Fever for today. It's a pretty exciting time to be a Wellington Phoenix fan, and much more to come, we hope, over the next 5 or 6 weeks. A fresh episode of Football Fever will drop into your podcast feed around the same time next Monday.
Football Fever with Jason Pine and Bonnie Jansen. For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.